Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Good morning, NFC East. Happy Hump Day. Happy Wednesday to all of you. We only got a couple more days to the NFC Championship game, Sunday at 3 o'clock on Fox. It's going to be a good time. Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports here. Tone DeShields is with me. I do have a column coming out later today. Just got to wrap it up. But we can talk about a little bit later, Tone, about 4 reasons why the Eagles can win the Super Bowl. And I have to do this for every team for CBS, but today it's Eagles Day, so we get to talk about that. But Tone brought up something to me, backstage, that I think today's a good day to do it since we're going to start actually previewing the NFC title game. No more of this Chris Sims BS, and I mean we can talk about Eli Apple too if we want to. That guy's a moron. But anyway, we're going to go position by position. Eagles and 49ers. And I guess we'll start with the obvious, Tone. I'm pretty sure we can both agree quarterback goes to the Eagles.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think that's really a conversation. Some people are trying to make it a conversation these days, but I feel like Jalen Hurts has earned his lumps. He took his lumps, and he was an MVP candidate. He's the All-Pro. Brock Purdy, yes, he's on this winning streak. He's on this magic carpet ride with the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm gonna give him credit where credit is due. He's been doing his job to the best of his ability, and I'm not going to take anything away from him in terms of that. But Jalen Hurts is a guy who's just been head and shoulders above the pack. I'll put it like this, right? Jalen Hurts is the system, whereas though Brock Purdy is a cog in the system, and I think that's the significant difference between these two guys.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. Kyle Shanahan has had plenty of quarterbacks that have been a product of his system. I mean, Matt Ryan won MVP in Kyle Shanahan's system. Matt Ryan's really good. And Kyle Shanahan's been trying to find a Matt Ryan type pretty much ever since he got to San Francisco. Maybe it's Brock Purdy. Who knows? But I just need more than 7 games with Brock Purdy. And I've seen Sean King go to an NFC title game and completely stink the bed. So, I mean, I don't want to compare Brock Purdy to Sean King. But he is a rookie that's been to the title game, and he's facing, pretty much I don't want to call them an unstoppable force because that's not what they are, but the Eagles are clearly the best team in the NFC. If you want my honest opinion, that's what they are. I know the 49ers won 12 straight, and they got the better skill players, but if you look top to bottom, which is why we're going to do the rosters here, the Eagles are better. So now let's go to running back. To me, I got to give the edge to San Francisco because of Christian McCaffrey. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott can't game well, fine, but Christian McCaffrey and Elijah Mitchell, they're just on a different level.
Yeah, I would probably do it like this. I would say CMC is top dog, then Miles, and then Elijah Mitchell, then Kenny Gainwell, and then Boston. If I had to rank them in terms of obviously how good they are, CMC is just a freak, man. Let's be honest. So CMC, he's a wide receiver playing running back, and he's a running back playing wide receiver. He does everything. He runs routes better. He runs routes better than some number 2 wide receivers, number 1 wide receivers, right? So you got to give the edge to CMC. He's just such a dynamic player. He's so slippery, and he just knows how to turn. He knows how to turn bad plays into good plays. And he knows how to turn good plays into great plays. He's just a freak of nature.
Yeah, here's the thing with Christian McCaffrey too. You know they haven't lost since they traded for Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's played a full game. I'm not talking about the Chiefs game. The Chiefs game was his first game. But since Christian McCaffrey has pretty much been a starter for this team, they haven't lost because they won 12 in a row. I mean, Christian McCaffrey, if they win the Super Bowl, it's because they traded for Christian McCaffrey. That was a brilliant move for them. Wide receiver. A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Zach Pascal, Quez Watkins for the Eagles. By the way, did you happen to realize Zach Pascal played a lot more than Quez Watkins on Saturday night?
I'm actually glad you brought that up. That was something I noticed immediately. And that told me a couple of things. A, Zach Pascal had a much better week of practice compared to Quez. But also, having Zach Pascal on the field allowed that game plan to really be executed properly. And let me tell you what I mean by that. Zach Pascal is a much better blocker than Quez Watkins. And when you see Zach Pascal on the field more so, that kind of gives you a feel for how the game is going to go in terms of what their game plan is going to be. But I'll take it a step further. I know a lot of people are in love with Quez Watkins. Maybe it's because his name, or he gives us he gives us a few flash plays here and there, and it's just exciting. And we all hope, or we all wish, that he can just be this barn burner or this home run hitter. But that hasn't been the case this year, and on a consistent basis. But I'll say this: I think Zach Pascal is better than Quez Watkins. I believe that. I believe that you can get more out of. I believe you can get more out of Zach Pascal than Quez Watkins. Quez Watkins is kind of a one-trick pony. He runs terrible routes. He rounds them off all the time, which allowed for a couple turnovers that happened this year. If he's not running in a straight line, how dangerous is he? Whereas though I believe Zach Pascal, and I've seen the film. I've seen Zach Pascal with the Colts, and I've seen him with us whenever he's had an opportunity. I think Zach Pascal is a much better route runner.
I like Zach Pascal too. I like the free agent signing when they brought him in. Remember, they brought him in like one of the first days of free agency. And remember back then, Tone, everybody was like, "Well, what are they doing here? Zach Pascal's the only wide receiver they're bringing in. Like what are we doing here?" And then Howie Roseman trades for A.J. Brown at the draft, and everything changes. But I agree with you. I think people are attached to Quez Watkins. Remember a couple years ago when they drafted Rager and they had Marquise Goodwin, and it was pretty much the Eagles could make a 4x100 relay team with them, John Hightower, Quez Watkins. Well, Quez Watkins is the only one left. So maybe that's it. And I think Quez Watkins can stick around in the NFL, but he's not terrible.
I don't want to give the impression that he's terrible.
Well, he's not a 2.
He's not a 2. And I just think Zach Pascal is I think Zach Pascal is more fundamentally sound because he has to be. He's not as fast as Quez Watkins. He was undrafted. He's a guy that had to earn he had to earn his way every step of the way. Quez has had to earn it as well because he was a 6th-round pick. But Zach Pascal is a guy who, again, not that fast, not that physically imposing, so he has to be fundamentally sound. But he's a bigger body. He's a much bigger body than Quez Watkins, and he's a better blocker. So I just think he's much more useful in that number 3 role, especially going deep into the playoffs.
Yeah, for wide receiver, though, I am going to give the edge to the Eagles. Nothing against Deebo Samuel, nothing against Brandon Ayuk. Those two are ballers. I kind of wanted Brandon Ayuk on the Eagles the year they drafted Rager, but I also thought Justin Jefferson would be off the board too at that time. So, I mean, Brandon Ayuk's turned out to be a fine player. I think
Devontae's better than him, though.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah. I mean, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. If you look at the depth, the Eagles are better at wide receivers. We'll go offensive line. We have to go Eagles, right? They're the best offensive line in football.
Yeah. I'm looking at both offensive lines right now, and Trent Williams is obviously the best. Is obviously the best offensive lineman out of everyone. Trent Williams is a bona fide Hall of Famer.
Would you give him the edge over Lane right now?
I would give him the edge because he's a left tackle, and left tackles, obviously, their value is significantly higher than the right tackle. But depending on if your quarterback is left-handed or right-handed, right? But Trent Williams, man, he's a bona fide Hall of Famer. He's just so great, and it's so hard to go against Trent Williams. But again, I will only give him the edge because he's a left tackle. But then after that, you got Lane, Kelsey, Samalu, Mailata. I I don't think the 49ers have a better offensive lineman on their line except for Trent Williams.
Mike McGlinchey is going to be the key for them on Sunday because he's going to be going up against Hassan Reddick and Micah Parsons. I mean, the one play aside where he looked like Reggie White, he kind of did have his way against Mike McGlinchey when he was lined up on his side. And the Eagles have the luxury of, okay, we can line up Hassan Reddick there. We can line up Brandon Graham there. We really want to. We can put Josh Sweat there. The Eagles have a bunch of advantages there. The right side of the 49ers offensive line can be very exposed on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take it a step further, right? Let's move to the defensive side of the ball. Defensive line. Whose defensive line are you taking? Not best defensive player, but the defensive line, the unit.
The Eagles. The Eagles. I gotta be honest. 70 sacks. Let's be real here. You know, are they as good against the run as the 49ers? No, but we'll get into that in a second.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, you got Hassan Reddick, you got Josh Sweat, you got Brandon Graham, you got Robert Quinn, you got Fletcher Cox, you got Javon Hargrave, you got Milton Williams. Stop me if I'm forgetting anybody here, Tone. I mean, this defensive line is loaded. They can get to the quarterback. They can stop the run when they need to. Not that they're great against the run, but they're good enough. And I think they need to be great against the run on Sunday. That's where I think the 49ers can win this game because they have Christian McCaffrey, they have Elijah Mitchell, they have Deebo Samuel. Kyle Shanahan has that zone run scheme. And that's where I think Hassan Reddick's a pure pass rusher, but I know he's not excellent against the run. That might take him off the field because Brandon Graham is excellent against the run.
Right. And another thing to think about as well is the fact that the Eagles have 4 guys in the double-digit sack category. 4 guys. Whereas, though, the San Francisco 49ers only have 1. And that's by a landslide, right? Nick Bosa had like 18 sacks on the season. The next closest guy had 5 sacks. And then the guy beyond that has 4.5. Like, Nick Bosa is that defensive line. Nick Bosa is that pass rush. You know, I'm not taking anything away from Eric Armstead and what they're capable of doing, but let's be frank here. The numbers tell you that. And also just what you see. The disparity in sacks and that result from the pass rush is alarming. Nick Bosa is their pass rush. And on top of that, one of their D linemen actually just got arrested this week. I'm not going to get into the reasoning, not any of my business at all, but he got arrested this week, and that may be a distraction. That he is Nick Bosa's rotational guy, the guy that comes in when Nick Bosa comes off the field. So now they've been impacted in terms of depth. So go ahead.
Oh, and Charles Omaheu, who was arrested.
He
can ball. He's a baller. He was a baller in Houston. I love the sign for San Francisco. I actually kind of want the Eagles to pursue him if they wanted to get a cheaper edge rushing free agent this offseason. Again, he's one of those guys. I thought he was a good compliment to Bosa when they do put him in there. But this is why I try telling Eagles fans this. They don't want to listen sometimes. There's a reason why Nick Bosa is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. He carries that team. He literally carries them. He led the league in sacks. He led the league in quarterback hits by a wide margin. The guy's a baller. Like you said, Tone. He's a baller. And he gets nothing against Hassan Reddick. It's not against Michael Parsons. But people are making this silly debate over those two. I'm like, did we forget Nick Bosa exists? Or do you not watch him?
With all due respect, man, fans know damn well. They know if Nick Bosa said, I want to come to Philly, they send in whoever on that defensive line to the 49ers. Make it real simple. As great as Hassan Reddick has been, he has been great. He's been spectacular. We all would trade Hassan Reddick for Nick Bosa straight up. Let's be honest.
I think anybody would trade. I mean, really, who do you not trade for Nick Bosa? TJ Watt, Myles Garrett? Might be it. Michael Parsons?
Well, I think I put all of those guys, especially TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. I would probably rather have Myles Garrett because he's available more often than those guys. Because from a health perspective, Nick Bosa and TJ Watt, they correct me if I'm wrong, but they seem to get hurt pretty often.
Watt got hurt this year. I mean, he got hurt last year too, but I don't know. I think the Watt family gets hurt a lot. I mean, JJ Watt got hurt. It might be just their style of play. They're
violent. They're violent pass rushers. They They contort their bodies. They do anything to get to the food. So yeah. I ain't mad at that.
TJ Watt's injury was weird. That torn pec. I mean, that can happen to anybody.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just a weird injury for him. But you're right. Myles Garrett seems to play every. By the way, I don't want to go too off topic. Myles Garrett here. He could get 20 sacks with Jim Schwartz as his defensive coordinator.
Oh yeah, that's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see what that looks like.
They definitely got a defensive coordinator that's going to play to Myles Garrett's strength. But they have linebacker. I got to give the edge to the 49ers.
Have to.
Simply because what a stud. What an absolute stud.
When you see a linebacker run stride for stride with the number one wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb, what are we doing here, man? That guy's like a corner / safety / linebacker all in one body, man. He's an athletic freak at the position. You got to give the edge. Both their linebackers are better than ours, Greenlaw and Fred Warner. I don't think that's a debate.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably the best off-ball linebacker in football, if we're going to be honest. You know, T.J. Edwards has been really good for the Eagles this year.
Yeah, he's great at what he does.
Fred Warner's just on a different planet. I mean, he's the reason why the 49ers have such a great run defense, which is why I'm so curious about this game on Sunday to see what Nick Sirianni does, see what he brings to the table in terms of running the football. Will he try to attack them via the pass early, or is he going to use the pass to set up the run? That's what I'm really curious to. I cannot wait to see how DeMeco Ryans uses Fred Warner. By the way, Fred Warner plays a lot like DeMeco Ryans did.
I mean, did he draft him? Like was he a part of that staff that brought him in?
Was DeMeco there yet? I don't think so. I think he was with the Texans. Still.
Okay, but still, again.
They brought him in 2017. So no, Robert Saleh was there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, those guys are just dominant forces. T.J. Edwards and Kaiser White, they're solid at what they do, but they're just not those guys. Yeah. All right, let's try to speed this up. We have our guy Kevin Boillard in the backfield, waiting for his chance to get at bat. So, all right, let's do this. Cornerback, I give the edge to the Philadelphia Eagles. What about you?
Yeah, Slane Bradbury. I by the way, that's another matchup I want to see on Sunday. Jalen Hurts, deep ball. He's the best deep ball thrower in the league. And the 49ers are bottom 5 defense in defending the deep ball. So if Jalen Hurts gets some time, we can see some big plays on Sunday.
Okay. Now, safety. Obviously, C.J. Gardner-Johnson is back, and then the Eagles have elevated Reed Blankenship to that starting role. And then the 49ers have Talanoa Hufanga and Tashawn Gibson Sr. This is interesting to me because
I think I'd go. You know what? I'll interrupt you quick.
You're good.
I'll go Niners.
Talanoa Hufanga is the wild card, right? He's the edge. Like
yeah. I think so. I would go there. I mean, Hufanga is one of those guys. He's everywhere.
I think Hufanga is a better all around player than CJ. Like I think Hufanga is a better tackler. But CJ is just a ball hawk, man. I think CJ has better ball skills.
Here's the thing: I think a wild card here too is Avonte Maddox. If he plays Sunday, then CJ gets to play safety instead of playing that nickel hybrid role.
Definitely.
I don't know if Avante's going to play Sunday. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, man. But without further ado, you guys, we have our guy Kevin Boillard behind the scenes ready to come in and answer some questions for us. He has a lot to answer for today, but it's going to be exciting. Kevin's my guy, man. And it's all fun and games. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. He's Jeff Kerr, and I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II. Keep it locked, you guys.
My name is Fran Salerno, and I'm a managing director here at Del Valle Insurance Group. Been in the business for over 36 years, saving people money on their insurance needs. Give us a call. Let us help you custom design an insurance plan that meets both your needs and budget.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean.
We all know that taxes are just part of life. It's true during our working years, but also in retirement. But what you might not know is up to 85% of your Social Security benefits might be taxed. Our team at Thrive Financial has helped retire thousands of people across the Delaware Valley by asking questions they never knew they needed to ask, including how their Social Security benefits might be taxed. It's time to be proactive on taxes. Get your Thrive Retirement Tax Playbook today.
Post-game show with Seth Joyner.
I knew that they had a running game.
Derek Gunn.
He has put in the effort.
Devin Caney.
Had we not won the Super Bowl, what would we be saying?
And Mike Missinelli.
Well, you know who Philly is.
Post-game, now streaming on the 6ABC family of apps.
It is time for Kevin Boiler to pay for his sins today on Good Morning NFC East. Kevin, first off, before I grill you today, I do have to commend the Giants on their season. I mean, the fact that the New York Football Giants did go 9-7-1 and make the divisional round is a testament to Brian Dable, to that franchise. I mean, think of it this way. This is what I said to myself Sunday. If you're a Giants fan, you went as far as the Buffalo Bills did this year.
Hey, that's a good way to phrase it, Jeff. And also, I know neither of us are in the interest of praising the Cowboys, but this is Good Morning NFC East. And got to admit, 3 of the 4 NFC East teams in the divisional round really couldn't have asked for a better season from the entire division, except for, I guess, the Commanders.
I agree. And here's the thing with the Cowboys, right? As disappointing as probably that game was Sunday, if you look back on it, I did not expect them to go 12-5 and win a playoff game this year. I thought they'd take a step back as well, and they went a step further.
Yeah, I mean, I think before the season thought it was a 2-team race for the NFC East between the Cowboys and the Eagles. I definitely thought that the Eagles were going to close the gap, but I still thought heading into the season that the Cowboys were the more put together team. They were more complete. There were questions about Jalen Hurts heading into this season, coming off that game against the Bucs in the wild card round last year. Makes me wonder what the questions are going to be about the Giants. I mean, I know it's a little different because Giants quarterback is now going into free agency. So it's a similar situation though, the Giants got their butts kicked just like the Eagles did last year. And the way you go out kind of shapes your offseason for you. This is an interesting thing. If the Giants had lost a close one to the Vikings in the wild card round, fans would be feeling completely different, even though they would have lost a week earlier, because your last memory is just getting your butts kicked by the Eagles. If you go out for the Vikings, you might be thinking right now, okay, they're a wide receiver away from competing. But then when you saw the way they looked against the Eagles, you go, okay, this team is not one position or one player away from competing for a Super Bowl. They're missing a lot of pieces. And that was pretty apparent in the divisional round.
I thought Daniel Jones didn't play well. Don't kid me on that. But when you look at that offensive line and how they were just manhandled by Jason Kelsey, but I'm going the other way here. Sorry. But when you look at that offensive line, their offensive line, Mark Layowski just destroyed. Evan Neal, he's got a lot of work to do. He's got to develop. John Feliciano, Nick Gates, they were just dominated by Fletcher Cox, by Javon Hargrave, by Hassan Reddick, whoever. I thought the offensive line truly failed Daniel Jones on Saturday night.
I think so too. I think the bigger problem was the defense. The defense couldn't stop the Eagles at all, not even one iota. And so I think even if Daniel Jones, had a best game of the season, I think they still lose because of how unable the defense was to get a stop. You're right about the offensive line, although all season the offensive line has been better than it's been in years. And then there's kind of this general sentiment as Evan Neal was not good this year. That's a top 10 draft pick, so you want him to be good. But Andrew Thomas was a 4th overall pick and looked pretty bad his rookie year. The difference was he just got thrown into the fire on the left side. So you want Evan Neal to look a little better on the right side, but I'll give him that 1 year of growing pains, but he's got to make a massive leap next year. And then you're right. The interior offensive line is nothing special, but I think there really are only a handful of teams that, all 3 guys in the interior are studs, like a lot of teams have a weak point at center or guard, or even one of their tackle positions. So it's kind of just coming with the territory, in my opinion, in NFL. I think offensive line play across the board is not as good and not as common as it was, maybe 10 years ago. So that's just the nature of the game and what you have to deal with. And the best quarterbacks overcome bad offensive line play.
Why do you think that is? Do you think it's because of maybe everything's now so... And look, we worked for 24/7 Sports. We knew how big 7-on-7s were. Mm-hmm. Don't you feel like they kind of ignored the 11-on-11 aspect of football?
Jeff, I know you. When was the first Eagles training camp you went to, like as a kid?
As a kid, I want to say 98.
Yeah, you remember what training camp was like in 1998? Yeah. 2-a-days, fully padded practices. It was like the week got weeded out. I'm not saying that like player safety doesn't matter. It does, but you can't, when you go so far in the player safety direction, you're going to lose things on the other end. And some of the things are obvious, like when we see all these like horrible pass interference roughing the passer calls. It's kind of one of those things that all of Twitter agrees on, is like, this is a horrible thing for the game. But at the same time, everyone's like wants player safety. I think poor offensive line play is the same thing. It's like, if you want player safety, then you don't want, 2-a-days all summer, fully padded practices, but then of course, naturally offensive line play is going to suffer. So I think it takes like a full season for, an offensive line to really gel and learn how to play, or at least half a season these days. And and so I think you're seeing more athletic quarterbacks who are running around more. Escapability and mobility is a bigger factor that people are looking for. There's really no such thing as a pure pocket passer anymore. Like, can you name any of the elite quarterbacks in the NFL? Is anyone a pocket passer anymore? They might prefer to throw from a clean pocket, but it's like, if you don't have that element of escapability, then you're not a top tier quarterback in the NFL today's age.
And I think that's why the Giants have such a decision on Daniel Jones, right? Because he does have that escapability, because he can run the football. I think he led the league in yards per carry this year, if I'm not mistaken. So
I don't know if he led it in yards per carry. I can't imagine he had more than Justin Fields, but he was up there. And a big stat that might even be more important than yards per carry is rushing first downs. I don't know what he was like final season, but I know he was top 10, top 5.
He was top 5. He was definitely top 5.
And so that, to me, that's moving the chains. And there was a lot of like, 3rd and 6s, 3rd and 7s where it looked like a dead play and he'd scramble and he'd get a first down. And that helps these little things that, like, when you're playing it, like when you're the Giants and you're not the most potent offense and you kind of play a ball control, clock management type of game, like every first down matters. So a lot of people like to dump on Daniel Jones because he had 15 touchdown passes this year, and that's it. But he also had 7 rushing touchdowns, and he led a lot of scoring drives that were just long, grinded out scoring drives where he had clutch first down runs or runs for first downs. So those are little things that I don't know. When you're talking about paying quarterback, I mean, what are they going to have to pay him? Maybe like a lot of Giants fans are like, I wouldn't pay him $30 million a year, but like, look at what $30 million a year gets you. That's like Ryan Tannehill money, like, or Kirk Cousins makes $35 million a year. He just went to Minnesota and beat Kirk Cousins on the road. So you got to imagine 35 that's where we're starting, and that scares Giants fans because as great as he was this year, and as much as everyone wants to say he was awesome, and he was, and say, I told you so on all the doubters. Okay. Now you got to put your money where your mouth is and you got to pay him.
And that's the other thing. The cap's going up. So $35 million a year may not be that much, especially if it's a short-term deal. I think where I said this to Tone on Monday, this is where I would have made my decision on Saquon Barkley. And then it was on his best play of the night, the 35-yard run. I'm going to say this, Kevin. See if you agree with me here. He got caught.
Yep. And I know you've watched freaking every Saquon Barkley run since probably he was in high school, maybe even before that. Have you ever seen him get caught from behind like that?
Not by Marcus. I said right in the press box. I said he was gone, and then and they're like, Kerr, what happened? I thought he was gone. I'm like, he normally is gone. So I don't know.
You've seen that exact run against the Eagles 2-3 years ago, and he was gone. And so that wasn't like knowing the player. You're like, yeah, I've seen this a million times, but now it's like, is he the same player? And then I'm curious what you thought of his post-game comments. Because to me, when they asked him about, contract, to me, that sounded like a running back who knows his best days are behind him.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And it I want to be here. No, you're a free agent. You don't want to be anywhere.
I don't want to reset the market or anything like that. Now, there's one thing he's telling the media, and then there were reports that came out yesterday that said that he's looking for Christian McCaffrey type money. But those are obviously the two big things that the Giants, it's going to be a major storyline from now until free agency or whenever they get them signed or not signed, whatever, is how are they going to manage the contract situations with Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. And a lot of people, just because it's a quarterback, just because it's a bigger, it's going to be a bigger dollar sign number next to it for Daniel Jones. I'm far less concerned with whatever they pay Daniel Jones. I think what they pay Saquon Barkley could end up being the bigger issue.
I think so too. Just on how much he gets paid. I don't know how much he's worth, to be honest with you.
So how would you only get one franchise tag, Jeff? So how would you, if you were the Giants, kind of go about managing those two contracts with those two stars?
I would hate to be Joe Shane right now. I really would. I don't know, to be honest. Like, are you okay with being 9-7-1, or do you franchise Jones and then see if you can go get another running back? Because there's a ton of them coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, it's weird. If Tony Pollard doesn't have a high ankle sprain, I think I'd go spend money on him.
Yeah, I know, right? I think that there's, to be honest, I wouldn't probably touch any of the guys in free agency. It's a pretty big class, and I would just take my shot in the draft on a running back. That's just the way I have, and I've said this before, but I have less of a problem with a team using, a first round pick, or to use the example of Saquon Barkley, it was a second overall pick. I have less of an issue with a team using that draft capital on a running back, because he's going to be under the rookie wage scale for 4 to 5 years, depending on whether he's a first round pick or not. The bigger problem is whether you give him the Ezekiel Elliott contract. That's going to hurt you. No team has ever been hamstrung by a rookie contract. They're all manageable. It doesn't matter where you take them. So now it's more of an issue of, okay, Saquon Barkley, he's the biggest name. He's the biggest face. He's the brand. So do you keep him in New York at what cost? Because you're not getting 2018. He's never coming back. You're never getting 2018 Saquon Barkley. The best you're ever getting is 2022 Saquon Barkley, who was elite for probably 9 to 10 weeks.
Which is really what makes it tough.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I just don't know. And Tone's asking backstage here, is it true Barkley won $16 million a year? No, I wouldn't pay him that.
That was the report from, I believe it was Mike Garafolo of NFL Network, and he's pretty plugged in with the Giants. So I don't think that if it was him who reported it, I apologize if I'm wrong, but I trust that that's true. But that's what he wants. What he wants and what he gets are going to be two different things. Well, he should come in on the high side. Just his agent, of course, is going to say, you know, my client is X, Y, and Z better than Christian McCaffrey because why, you know?
Or just find people like me who can inflate any stat known to man and make Saquon Barkley a top 3 running back, even though you're right. For 9 to 10 weeks, he was the top 3 running back. He was in the discussion for MVP. And then I don't know if he just fell off a cliff or if, like you said, 2018 Saquon Barkley ain't walking through that door.
I pointed it out on this show when I was like, if you look at Saquon Barkley, I can't remember when it was, but maybe around the time of the first Eagles game, week 14. And I was like, if you look at the last 4 weeks for Saquon, it's like, you can tell like he's either hurt or out of gas or something, because it's like, he's not playing the way he looked earlier in the season. And I actually love the way Daniel Jones responded to that. Like, later in the year, they had to put more games on Daniel Jones' shoulders. If you look at the Colts game, the Vikings game, and the final game of the year, those were games that Daniel Jones won. Saquon obviously contributed and played well and was a factor, but those were game plans that was like, all right, we're putting the ball in Daniel Jones' hands, and we're going to see what he can do. Now, it worked against worse defenses. When they had to go up against the Eagles, it looked pretty bad. So it's troubling because you still don't know what you have. You know, you have a better quarterback than the worst quarterback in the league, which some people were saying Daniel Jones was heading into this year, or at least worst starting quarterback. You know, he's probably now a top half of the league, but those guys, number 12 to 16, 10 to 16, they're never going to win you a Super Bowl. So is he a top 10 guy, or is he in that 10 to 16 range?
Where do you put Dak Prescott in that conversation?
I think Dak Prescott is the exact opposite of Daniel Jones in the sense that Daniel Jones is a good quarterback who has hardly anything around him other than Saquon this year for 10 weeks. Dak Jones. Oh
Dak Jones, you want to call him that now? We can do that.
We can do that, yeah. Dak Prescott is the complete opposite. He's a quarterback who's under talented. Like, it's not like they were like, whoa, this guy just fell to the 4th round. No one knew or saw who he was. He was an under talented quarterback who went to a team that drafts well, that picks up names in free agency. They've always had a good offensive line for him. They've always had weapons for him, a good running back, a stable of weapons for him, good tight ends. For all you want to say about the Cowboys and the way they underperform, they bring in talent. And so to me, Dak Prescott is overrated because he's on a much better team. Just look at how many turnovers, interceptions he had that did not even matter. Like, he had 2 interceptions in the divisional round game, and they still were within a 1-score game. Like, if Daniel Jones, he didn't have a game all year with 2 interceptions, but if he did, they would have lost by 40 points, like.
That's my issue with Dak. I think
his margin of error is so big. He's got the biggest margin of error in the NFL.
Well, and that's the other thing too with Dak. He led the league in interceptions. Like, think about this for a second. I think Dak might have thrown more interceptions this year than as many as Daniel Jones. No, Daniel Jones has more interceptions than that. But over the last 2 years, he's definitely thrown more interceptions than Daniel Jones has this year.
Yeah, and not to take it a completely different direction, but every time heading into this year, everyone was saying like, oh, since Daniel Jones entered the league, no one's had more turnovers. And when you look at it year by year, it's like, yeah, he had a ton his rookie year, and then he scaled it back, and then this year he really scaled it back. But now that's no longer true. I believe that the quarterback with the most interceptions or most turnovers from that time frame is Josh Allen now. Who Josh Allen, it's starting to shift after this most recent loss. But 2 weeks ago, everyone was saying, yeah, Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, they're the 2 best quarterbacks in the league. Who else even is there? Now it's like maybe Josh Allen is just Daniel Jones on a better team.
That's what I was thinking too. I think Josh Allen has to carry the Bills a lot more than people realize. And I think the smart football fan kind of realizes that if you watch Buffalo, their offensive line ain't that great. Their defense isn't as good as the numbers say it is, which I think, and they rely on Josh Allen way too much. And I think what Brian Daboll did, because he knew that back in when he was in Buffalo, decided not to do that with Daniel Jones and said, hey, I'm going to make sure Daniel Jones gets right in terms of not turning the football over. And when I need him to, I'm going to let him cook.
Yeah, and I don't mean to minimize what Josh Allen does. He's been their leading rusher too for a few years now. So
he's a beast.
Yeah, he is a beast. But he's not careful with the ball. And you know, if you're on a better team, if you're a dynamic player like that, then you can get away with it. And that's what I mean. But when I say margin of error, but I don't know. Do you want to talk about these games this weekend? We got to talk about these games.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I before we even get to these games, quick, one more Cowboys question.
Okay.
Are the Giants closer to passing the Cowboys
than the Eagles? You mean?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I would say that the Eagles are more of an ascending team. Look, I don't know. I haven't dug into it, but I've heard people say, I don't know what their salary cap situation is like. I don't know what their free agency situation is like next year.
There's a lot of guys that are free agents.
That's what I've heard, but I honestly haven't dug into it yet. But you know, when you have a young quarterback and you've paired him with a couple young receivers, and I think you've got one of the better coaches. As much as I hate his guts, I cannot stand Nick Sirianni. He is literally like, I've always said this, Jeff. I hate the Eagles, but in terms of villains, the Cowboys have always been the home of the villains. You know, like I can't stand Tony Romo, or I can't stand DeMarcus Ware back. Nice guy, but couldn't stand what DeMarcus Ware would do to the Giants. You know, Zeke Elliott. It was always like a villain on that team. Whereas the Eagles players, I didn't hate them as much. I just more hated the team and their fans. Nick Sirianni takes a cake. I think he is the biggest villain in NFC East history, man. I can't stand that guy. And I think everyone that's not an Eagles fan is in agreement that he is villain number one in the NFC East right now.
If you're an Eagles fan, you love Nick Sirianni, you love what he does. I mean, me personally, I wasn't at the press conference when he basically defended Jonathan Gannon to a certain radio station and called out a certain name. I was in the locker room at the time, but that was the topic before Jalen Hurts went to the podium, what Nick Sirianni did.
It's the faces in the camera. It's the yelling at the fans after the Colts game. That was awesome. You know, the hot mic near the goal line. Like, goodness. Like, I actually, when you listen to him in the press conferences, he doesn't come off as super arrogant in there. It's more of the in-game moments that you're like, this guy, like,
he fully embraced that whole being up 28-0 at halftime thing.
No, I know. And, you know, all I can hope is to see him on a tennis court around here somewhere next offseason.
Can you imagine, like, you know how he is just based on his pre-draft interviews. He's challenging people to play basketball. Can you imagine playing Nick Sirianni in basketball?
Yeah, I hope he gets dunked on by a 300-pound defensive tackle in next year's draft.
I'll tell you what I want to see. I want to go in the Eagles locker room at halftime, winning or losing, and just hear him talk. I'd love to hear what he has to say to the 53 guys on that team.
I wonder what he says. It's beyond me. I would not love to hear it.
I mean, you're right, though. Like, if you're not an Eagles fan, you can't stand the guy's guts.
Tone says Sirianni is 6'4". Is that true?
Yeah, he is 6'4". He's a big dude.
Brian Daboll, I don't know. I've never seen his height, but he's short.
Yeah, he is. You know who Brian Daboll looks like, don't you? Someone we know.
I was thinking the guy from what's the claymation? The holiday claymation? Rudolph. Yukon Cornelius.
He does look like Yukon in terms of famous people that everybody would know, but someone that we worked with, he looks very alike.
Who?
Jordan.
Oh yes.
Does he look like Jordan? I said in Buffalo a couple years ago, I put a picture up, and I put Jordan's profile picture. I put him up. I'm like, can anybody tell the difference?
I'm gonna clip this and send it to him.
Oh man, he already knows, so it doesn't matter.
I guess that's true.
I think Brinson pointed it out too. It was either Brinson or Breach. One of them pointed out that he looks like him, and
it's not a bad thing for your NFL for your career as an NFL writer if you've got a pretty popular doppelganger. I would lean into it more if I were him.
Yeah, see, I don't have a doppelganger. Well, I don't have an NFL doppelganger, as far as I know.
No, you do. I actually have a video somewhere. I'll find it. It's not a real one, but it was a Giants fan at a Giants game, and I was like, holy cow! If he wasn't decked out in Giants gear, I was like, that was Jeff Kerr. They showed him on the broadcast. I don't know when, but I sent it to someone. I sent it to Mike. I should have sent it.
Oh my God. See, DeCipio would love that.
Yeah, he did. I was like, if this wasn't Giants fan, this is Jeff Kerr.
Yeah. But by the way, our mutual friend, Mike DeCipio here, he's crushing with the Flyers right now.
Yeah. Yeah, he is.
He really is.
And the Wings. I'm going to the Wings game on Friday. You should go.
I should go. I mean, I'm going to the Sixers game Saturday. I'm going to be in Philly.
What did you think of that? All right, but before we should jump into the game, but real quickly, I loved the Philly fans giving the Wings a little,
that was awesome
tailgate thing.
That's Philly at its core.
As a lacrosse guy, that warmed my heart.
Oh yeah, everybody just loves box lacrosse. By the way, before we go to these conference style games here, did you see how upset people were they couldn't get a seat in the 2-hour level because they don't sell Wings seats in the 2-hour level? That's all. I
can't believe anyone even actually went into the game.
My buddy did. Because he was cold. He said, "I wanted to go in. I bought a beer, and then I went out tailgate." Okay, we gotta get in the Eagles 49ers here.
Yeah, we should.
Kevin, who's winning?
Man, I am not feeling very confident in the 49ers, but I will say all of this, the sentiment that came out of that game, all the Eagles fans, I know you had an easy romp of the Giants, but to say, the 49ers and the Cowboys, I'm confident. Neither one of them looked good. What do you mean neither one of them looked good? Like the 49ers took a top 5 scoring offense in the NFL this year and held them to 12 points. So their defense looked good. And we all know the 49ers are. Did you miss the part where they're winning playoff games with Mr. Irrelevant as their quarterback? That is impressive. If you can go head to head with a team as potent and high powered as the Cowboys and shut them down basically on defense to a point where your 7th round rookie quarterback isn't blowing the game for you, I love him. I like Brock Purdy. I'm rooting for him. It's a great story, but come on, there's no way he should be beating the best teams in the NFC. So I think that defense is going to give the Eagles, a lot more trouble than the Giants did in the divisional round. And they're really going to test Jalen Hurts. They're going to get after him, and they're going to make him make some tough throws. And there may be a couple of turnovers that they're going to have to bounce back from too. So I think it's going to be closer than probably a lot of Eagles fans are feeling right now. But I still think the Eagles are the better team. Been saying it all year. I think the Eagles are the best team in the NFL, and I'm not backing down from that now.
I keep telling people this. I think the main difference in the game is the Eagles have a top 5 quarterback and the 49ers don't. And sooner or later, the clock's going to strike midnight with this guy because he's going to be facing, and Dallas kind of exposed him a little bit. When he faces an actual pass rush, not the Seattle Seahawks, not the Arizona Cardinals, he gets off his spot and he doesn't look good. He was 3 for 11 for 24 yards, Kevin.
So that's what I would do. You're right. I would make it. I think the Eagles are going to give, in the same way I say that the 49ers defense is going to give the Eagles offense its greatest challenge. Same goes the other way around. Like the Eagles defense is going to make Brock Purdy's life hell. He needs to play within his means. I wonder, because there was a couple of plays, and not just this week, but the week before, where I was like, all right, Brock, do you think you're Patrick Mahomes? Like the way you're running backwards and doing crazy stuff? Don't do that. Play within your means. don't turn the ball over. Let your defense win this game for you, or at least keep you in it until the end. And then at the end of the game, if you got to try something crazy to win it, try it then. But don't do something crazy in the first half and, spot the Eagles points or yards or turnovers that you don't need to spot them at that point in the game.
And I think that's where I don't want to see the kids getting cocky or confident or anything like that. It's definitely a confidence thing, but you're right. Like, you're running 15 yards backwards. Why? I don't get it.
Yeah, it's like, if it's not there when you're looking and you're saying, it's probably not going to be there 15 yards behind the pocket either. There's really only a couple quarterbacks who, like Russell Wilson, could do it somehow back in his prime. He always had a way of like running backwards and then finding some miracle receiver for a first down. Patrick Mahomes does it, but even he doesn't do it as much as he used to. Like, the Chiefs offense is good, like operating within a system and stuff, but you don't see him doing the crazy freelancing stuff that you saw a couple of years ago, like when he threw 50 touchdowns. And I don't think that's any knock on Mahomes. I'm not saying he can't do it. I'm just saying I think he's come to be a better NFL quarterback. And I think that he now knows how to operate the offense better.
Fun story. So when I interviewed Patrick Mahomes a couple years ago, and I've talked to him a couple times since, I asked him, this is right after he went to the Super Bowl. I said, hey, what's one thing you want to improve on? He said, that was one of his things, like footwork. He said, I got to stop freelancing.
Yeah. That was after the first Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, after his first
I
Super
remember
Bowl.
He was like, yeah, I don't even really know how to read a defense. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, they're like,
imagine when this guy can read a defense. But that's what you see. When you see, oh my gosh, this goes into like so many levels of what I talk about when it comes to quarterbacks. Like, when you see a quarterback, a young guy like a Brock Purdy or like a, Patrick Mahomes a few years ago or Justin Fields this year, and they're just freelancing, it's probably because they can't read a defense yet. And like, yeah, you're athletic and you can make a lot of throws, or in Justin Fields' case, a lot of runs. Like, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to advance to the level that how does Patrick Mahomes gone? Like, it's funny. Josh Allen has been bad, peaked, and gone back to, I'm not saying he's bad, but like, he's now declined. How is Patrick Mahomes he's the only quarterback that steadily has been going up.
And this is why I like how we're kind of segueing in the AFC Championship game now. Yeah. Because I feel like Patrick Mahomes' knowledge of the game, as long as he's on the field, Kansas City has a shot to beat Cincinnati.
Exactly. The injury is obviously concerning. But dude, I mean, they won a game. Was it last year where Henny came in, or was that 2 years ago?
2 years ago with the Browns game.
I mean, they went on a touchdown drive with Henny in the game too. Like, I'm not saying they're going to win. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Bengals without Patrick Mahomes, or if Patrick Mahomes has to leave the game, or, if he's 50% or something. But like, dude, we've talked about this before. Andy Reid brings out the best in whoever is on the field at quarterback for him. And he's fearless too with him. Like, he doesn't go into like, okay, backups in, time for plan B, let's run the ball. It's like, no, he's just like, okay, who's my quarterback now? Let's air it out. It's Chad Henne. Cool. I'm ready. Like, yeah. I love that about Andy Reid.
I got a 15-year veteran in here. I won games with freaking AJ Feely. I can certainly win with Chad Henne.
I went to the NFC Championship with Jeff Garcia. Like,
yeah. I mean, seriously, like Andy Reid has done it all. Like, he made Kevin Kolb a good quarterback. He made him a trade. You got Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie for Kevin Kolb. Think about that.
Yeah. You realize the really tragic thing for Giants fans when it comes to the AFC Championship, right?
Not because of Eli Apple, I hope.
Well, it's either Eli Apple or Kadarius Toney is going to the Super Bowl.
I think I take Kadarius Toney over Eli. Eli Apple is a moron.
Well, he's now, we were talking about villains a minute ago. Nick Sirianni I think Eli Apple is one of the top 10 NFL villains of all time now.
So I don't care what he said. He took a shot at DeMar Hamlin.
Yeah, and he does. I mean, DeMar, that one was like, wow, can't believe he went there. But he says a lot of stuff on Twitter that's like, I wonder what makes someone like that. Like, they must just love the hate. It must just be like, no one likes me, so might as well just make everyone hate me. So they at least like have to acknowledge me.
And he's not good. He almost was benched for Chidobe Azulue like 2 weeks ago. He's not good.
Weird.
I want to see. Honestly, I think so. I want to give the person credit, but I forget who tweeted it. The Pro Bowl should be Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson. Name your great receiver against Eli Apple. If Eli can stop him, we donate the money to charity.
Yeah, great idea. It's tough for me to say which one. It was easier for me to hate Eli Apple when it was just Giants fans who hated him. Like, he really had only wronged Giants fans. And so there was a period where only Giants fans hated Eli Apple. Now everyone hates Eli Apple. So it feels like more like, oh, if he goes to the Super Bowl, it's not just my hate on the line for him. Everyone's in it together with me. So I feel a little more connectivity to the rest of the NFL fans. If Kadarius Toney goes to the Super Bowl right now, he's where Eli Apple was years ago. Only Giants fans hate Kadarius Toney. In fact, the rest of the NFL kind of likes Kadarius Toney. Like, they think he's cool and they think that he has a lot of potential and maybe we'll learn a route tree one day.
Maybe with Andy Reid.
Like, and if he goes and he scores a touchdown on some gimmicky play in the Super Bowl, I won't be able to sleep.
Yeah, that's a tough one for you, Kev. So who are you picking?
I think the Chiefs win. I think the Chiefs will win. It's going to be Chiefs, Eagles, Super Bowl. And we're going to have to hear about Andy Reid connection, Super Bowl, Philadelphia, Philly all the time. And it's going to be terrible.
What about the Kelceys?
And the Kelceys, we'll hear about that. Did you know they're brothers? Did you know they have a podcast? Did you know that Jason Kelce dressed up as a mummer the last time they won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, you know what sucks? I've interviewed Jason and Travis so much. All I want to do is get those two together in a room and interview them, and that's never going to happen during the Super Bowl because everybody's going to want to do that.
Jason's way more likable than Travis, in my opinion.
Travis is funny, though. Travis got some moments.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, they're both going to be Hall of Famers.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah. Before we end the show, are they the best brother duo?
No, Tiki and Rondé Barber.
But the Kelceys are both going on. Rondé should be in the Hall of Fame. Rondé should be.
Thank you, Jeff. I know that's true.
Yeah, Tiki, it's a shame because he played running back. And
yeah,
Tiki was
he
really
doesn't have
good.
many advocates.
Well, Tiki hasn't made too many friends since he's retired.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like the only one.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, but he was a really good player when he did play.
Yeah.
Honestly, Kev, if Tiki would have played like another year or two, because he left at the top of his game, you think he gets in?
Hey, man, he's one of only 3 players with 10,000 rushing yards and 5,000 receiving yards. The only other ones are Marcus Allen and Marshall Faulk. So
and they're in.
Yeah.
So it's a shame. Anyway, Kev, gotta let you go, my man. Always a pleasure having you on. Good morning, NFC East, and I'll talk to you next week.
Catch you later.
All right. Kevin Boiler, everybody, and I ain't grilled him too much on the Giants, but he was honest. He's made some crazy Giants predictions in the past, so we can forgive him on that. But yeah, he did pick the Eagles and the Chiefs. I'll give my conference title predictions later in the week. I think you guys kind of know where I'm going to lean on this, but anyway, when all your Eagles talk, Birds 365 coming up next. Joe McDonald, a legend, and John McMullen, another legend. This is Good Morning NFC East. My name is Jeff Kerr. Make sure to go on CBSSports.com to find out 4 reasons how the Eagles are going to win the Super Bowl or why they're going to win the Super Bowl. I have to do it for all the 4 teams remaining. I think it's the Eagles. Have a good day, guys.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth.